So another advantage of backpacking, going nomad, is basically the complete and utter freedom that you will experience. This is one of the most, if not the most advanced form of being off the grid. It's not for everyone, and the benefits are only to be reaped by the few that decide to go on this journey, this lifestyle, this adventure. Because there's nothing short of an adventure. There's nothing short of an expedition. If you have a expeditionary spirit, this is for you. Whether you do it or not, whether you decide and gain the courage, gather up the courage to do it or not, this is ultimately what you would like. Some people may not even recognize or even consider this because they may just not know about it, or they may be reluctant to do it because of the many tie-ups that they may have, the many commitments, the many hold downs that they may have with life, with the culture as it is right now, and all of this, good stuff, or bad stuff, better said. I would also argue that an advantage for anyone that goes off grid in this way is that you get to rebel against the system with capital T, capital S. Again, if you have not known what the system is, if you have not found out, do look for it, including looking for it in my previous episodes, previous chats, etc. But very briefly, the system is the entirety of all of the entities, groups, people, communities, governments that tie you down, companies, jobs, corporations that keep control of you in one way or another. Whether it's your utility power company keeping control of your very large finance percentage there with your power bill, which you must and will pay according to their way of thinking. You must and will pay them and only them, however much they deem a fair charge. Another example of the system is your dear government, your dear elected leaders that keep tabs on you through the police by issuing you and highly encouraging you to get a state ID, a tool of control, a tool of subjugation, a tool of surveillance. Also, financial institutions, your banks, keep you nailed to your city, to your town, to your home, through property, by taxing the hell out of you, taxing the life out of you, charging the life out of you with high finance charges through loans, mortgage loans, credit card loans, student loans, personal loans. You fill in the list, and that's them. That's what they do. That's their bread and butter. You enslaving it and working for them, simply put. And there is a repertoire of other entities, communities, clubs, you name it, that keep you hostage, keep you enslaved, keep you for ransom, and force you, pretty much force your hand, force your will to basically do their bidding, do as they say. That is, in short, and a very brief, partly described, sentence about the system. I could go on for a whole show about this, but again, do research that on your own and find out what the system is and how it is detrimental for you in many, many ways, including your health, both physical and mental, and detrimental for your own livelihood. Your own life is pretty much hurt and damaged by the system every day, every single day that you're under it. Your health and livelihood are affected in a negative way by the system. The system wants you to get addicted to caffeine, alcohol, television, sugar, fats, fast food, and a repertoire of other things, including pornography, including sexual images, including a lot of things the system benefits from, and at your expense, the expense of your health, your life, your everything, your family, your well-being, your time. Very important, your time is very much pinned by your job, your beloved job that so much gives you so much happiness and joy, quote unquote. And little wonder why you cannot wait to either retire or go on your next vacation, your next time off. Ask yourself, why is it that you live life from vacation to vacation, from Friday to Friday, from break to break? What is in between those? No job. What is in between each break, each vacation, each lunch break, each weekend? No job. Think about it. So, is it really so satisfying, so fulfilling, and so meaningful for you to have that job, quote unquote job, that you cannot wait for the next break, for the next time that you get away from it? You walk away from it, you run away from it. Why is it? No, it's not for all of us. Yes, some of us may a tiny few minority of us may have satisfying, meaningful, fulfilling positions in life that we don't mind doing at all. A lot of doctors, engineers, a lot of physicians, lawyers, a lot of successful business owners, people that do things that are very meaningful for others, such as caring for the young, the old, the sick, those that build things for a living, may enjoy their work a lot, especially if they own a very large part of it or a significant part of it. But for the rest of us that work either for a builder, for an employer, for a factory, for a plant, for a farmer, we despise and cannot wait for the next break away from your job. So the 80 to 90% of us that are employed at the expense of our families, our time, our future, our livelihood, our creativity, at the expense of our own developments, our own expanded contribution to society. Yes, you do sacrifice a lot of your skills, a lot of your potential to be from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. working for some asshole sitting at a desk looking at you with his hands or her hands crossed, looking down at you like you're some sort of subject, like you're some sort of slave or property of theirs. That job, that's the one I'm talking about. Yes, that is a huge advantage of the people that choose this lifestyle, this journey. Dump your job in the conventional sense, of course. You may still have a job, job, quote unquote. Being on the road, you could be a traveling, working person. You could be moving from place to place, from project to project, from big sale to big sale, from gig to gig, from place to place. Even you may even hold. Another big advantage is that you can go out and find yourself. Find that which you must find in your thinking, in your head, in your future. Something that you may not know what it is, but you may be able to find it by just going out there. It may very well be back where you start, but sometimes you may not know. You may not consider. You may not appreciate it. You may not even be aware of where this thing or place or person or persons or situation, whatever is, you may not know where that would be. Again, it could be right where you start. It could be many hundreds, thousands of miles, hundreds or thousands of miles away. Who knows? And this is the most secure and ensured way that you will find that whatever it is within you, without you, apart from you, inside of you. It could be near or far. It could be big or small. There is no telling. But I believe wholeheartedly that you may find it with a lot of assurance. Almost guaranteed you may find it this way more than other ways. Other ways are more superficial, more artificial, more since they're more safe, more secure, less change, less sacrifice, less commitment, then you may not be able to find what you need to find. When you go all in, when you put your heart and mind into it 100% like you must, when you go out on the road on your own, then you must find what you're looking for. That is why I believe it's so secure and so assured that you will find what you're looking for, because you really leave no way out. You must find it or bust. You must find it or not. If you don't find it, guess what? You have found it because it was there all along. If you find it, then guess what? You found it. So this may not make much sense, especially the way I may be wording it, but some of you may find out, and some of you may try this, and some of you may already know what I'm talking about, whether I'm phrasing it and crafting it in a unintelligible or in an eloquent way. Forgive me for this. So, jumping into the disadvantages, there are many, if you may want to call them that. I call them challenges or hurdles to be overcome, hurdles or challenges to be taken up. But you may want to call them disadvantages. And if you call hard discomfort, if you call danger and risk, if you call inconvenience a disadvantage, then my friend, I got some for you. This thing is filled with them. You're walking into basically uncharted territory. Many of us, this is basically a journey that you will only live once to tell. Some of you may not be there, live long enough to tell the story, but you will in no short way, in no inglorious way experience it. Whether you tell it or not, whether you document it, share it or not, it's going to remain within you. So the disadvantages are, the risk, the discomfort. Talking about physical risk, physical safety. You will be out there exposed, not protected by a dwelling, a building, whether it be of wood, concrete, brick, whatever your current place of living is, stone, hay, leaves and sticks. Who cares? You have, most of you right now, some sort of protection, including myself, that you dwell in every evening, every night. Some of us during the day as well, during the work day. Some of you may work from home. Some of us may be unemployed at this moment during this time of the pandemic raging in early 2021. So the disadvantages are many. You will be inconvenienced as far as showering, as far as eating, health. You will be beat down by the elements, the sun, the wind, the dust, the noise, the snow, the rain, you name it. This will just happen if you're out there unprotected, unhoused, unsheltered. Yes, you may take shelter in many areas, many structures, whether it be cities, towns, homes, or out in the wilderness, out in the forest, out in the park, out in farms, whatever. Where there's trees, even on the side of the road, there may be trees you can take shelter in. Shelter from the sun, shelter from all of these elements I just mentioned. So another inconvenience is going to be your access to money, your access to jobs, your access to work, your access to family, your access to, you fill in the blank. Access to damn near everything is going to be a challenge. Sometimes even access to routes, roads, access to walkways, to trails will be a challenge. Access to technology is another big challenge. Access to, again, fill in the blank. You may not have a cell phone, let alone a cell phone service. You may not have a computer, let alone access to one. There are many ways around all of these, and I will discuss some of them. Again, this entire show is dedicated to this one topic, and it's so monstrous that, again, I cannot cover possibly all of the details, not even most, in one show that you're willing to sit through, or even I'm willing to speak through. But I will try to at least cover in a bit more detail than last time some of these items. So enough with the disadvantages. Let's jump into the meets right here, the bread and butter of this topic or chat. So once you decide to go out on the road on your travels, backpacking, living out of a backpack, that mind job is the first step, the first hurdle to jump through, and that's probably the toughest, the highest hurdle to clear. It's more like a wall that you must clear, the wall of your mind, the wall of your commitments, your tie-ins, your tie-ups, your anchors holding you down, holding you back. Family, big anchor if you have one, especially if you have young children or even teenager or older children. Perhaps out of even the house, you may be anchored to them because they are your everything. They may be very, very significant. Being close to them, spending time with them, helping them, having them help you. So that might be your first hurdle to overcome. You may not overcome it. Family, as far as spouse, parents, siblings, uncles, aunts, they may be around, they may depend on you. You may not be able to let go of that commitment. You may not be able to transfer your responsibilities to those that can and will accept them. You may not find one or two or three people that may be able to take over your responsibilities. They may be many, spread far and wide, not only with friends and family, but here we go again, your job, your beloved job. That's probably the second hardest hurdle to overcome, to finally get on the road. Your job may be your lifeline because and only because you have allowed it to be, through a probably lifelong indoctrination and conditioning that you have developed ever since you were born, or it was basically infused in you since you were a child, because you learned that your parents went to a job, went to work, so you must follow your parents' footsteps in some way or fashion. Not you think not stray too far from your parents' footsteps, from your siblings' footsteps, whoever raised you, took care of you, or whatever system. It could be a combination of both your family, your school, your society. It is a combination of that. It all depends on how much influence you had from who, when, and how. So your job, your valued, beloved, dear job, must go if you decide to go out on the road, at least for the time being, which is most likely going to be a permanent thing. And I do recommend that it be a permanent thing, because if it is not, then you're leaving one foot back where you came from. You're leaving one foot in the house, as if you will, and just walking with your tippy toes with another foot as far as you can go, and then quickly and swiftly coming back at the sign of any discomfort, at the sign of any inconvenience. So when you sever that very difficult and challenging umbilical cord with your job, then you're free to go. You're free to do as you want. recall or remember that you need not a job to survive. You're not giving up on life itself. In my opinion, you're opening up more doors to life itself. Your potential will probably leap forward and up as you do this, because it will require so much more of you, much more than your mediocre or very low value job. Low value not only to yourself but society as a whole. Think about it. How valuable is what you do to the existence and improvement of mankind and even your society right there locally where you're at? How valuable is it? How valuable is it? It may be quite valuable. Don't get me wrong. There are those very few positions and jobs and careers that are very quite valuable. But you'll be surprised how many of those, even those deemed high in value, doctors, lawyers, etc., may not be as valuable as you think, especially if you go into some sort of specialization where the value of it is just diminished. So going back to my point, let's say you finally decide to go on. You break away with every tie down, every anchor. Somehow you rationalize that you will and must go for however long it may be. It may be a permanent life change. It may be a temporary thing. I would be okay with either. But let's say that you made up your mind. You must go. So you must think about the basics first. What is the most basic thing that you can think of? Water. Drinking water, consuming it. Not only that, but accessing it. You must access it to consume it, right? You need water more than you need anything else. Let's be frank and bold, as you should be, embarking in such treacherous and life-changing journey. So, water, you must do one thing of many. You must either take it with you, carry it along, or go to where it is every so often, damn near every day. You must drink water at least daily, I believe, is the biological need. I mean, you could easily, break down physically. Your health could easily and will break down if you don't consume enough water. Water is just essential. Again, you must be able to carry it with you. I recommend to have, as I mentioned, a bottle, quite durable, and a bottle that you can perhaps microwave, heat up somehow with fire, heat up in the sun, to disinfect, to make drinkable. You may have a canteen, the military. This is one point I want to bring up right off the bat. As far as gear, military gear is basically made up and engineered to be on this type of lifestyle, to experience this type of lifestyle, because it is made to be out in the elements. It is made to be going out on journeys where you will be outside, exposed to the elements, the sun, the rain, the dust, the noise, the radioactive rays, which are UV rays, ultraviolet. Ultraviolet light is radioactive, however small an amount it may have. However, that small amount could build up over time, and equipment, gear, clothing that are cheap, that are made for very light use, essentially for non-military applications, they will break down, they will corrode, break, tear, dilapidate, whatever you want to call it. It will happen. They will turn to mush, junk, bits and pieces, shred. And so I do recommend right off the bat finding, acquiring, locating military gear, because it will take nothing short of that for you to have a good experience. No, you don't want to be looking like a soldier out there. That's going to raise a lot of eyebrows. One, it may raise enough eyebrows to put even your safety at risk. But as far as water containers, food containers, backpacks, maybe clothing, pants, it could be military gear. I don't recommend you do too much of it, because then you will look like a soldier. Some of you may not mind. Some of you may just go right ahead with that look. Although I don't recommend it, it is of course ultimately your choice, as everything else is. And but again, a canteen, whether it be the metal type or the more modern plastic type, I think work just fine. Those are engineered, again, to be dropped, to be heated, to be out in the elements. They may be a bit heavier than what you want to, but we're talking about water. We're talking about something that may save your very existence. So let it be inside of the most quality container you can possibly get your hands on. There are canteens for sale at big brick and mortar stores, online, at flea markets, you name it. Some of them may be at your local Salvation Army, Goodwill, or thrift store. Some of them may be at your local yard sale, so look for those. Also, backpack, you may want to get your hands on a rucksack or a similar type military backpack. They're made of materials. They're very, very difficult to break down, break up, tear up, especially the latches on it, pockets. I have one of those myself, and it's at least 10 years old, and it looks like it's been through a war zone. However, it is very, very basically whole in operating condition, as they say in the military, in operational condition. None of the latches are broken. None of the pockets have holes. The straps, none of the straps are tore or anything. And this is after being in a war zone, most likely, because it looks like it belonged to a military member that was deployed, because it had the way it looked, the use on it, the wear and tear looks that way. So backpack, big thing to look at, You don't want it too huge. You may not want a rucksack. Rucksacks are quite large. But something like a rucksack would be very, very recommended and optimal to get, because those do expand and contract, collapse, as you fill them up with stuff and empty them out. Emptied out, they could be flattened to the point where your profile is not that noticeable, not that much noticeably different from not having a big backpack. Yes, it will still be there. And they can also expand to the point where you can carry much gear, especially during different times of the year. You're going to need different equipment. You're going to need some sort of blankets if you are going to shelter from the sun, the cold, the heat, the sunlight, the rain. To be able to sleep, you may have a sleeping warm. That's WORM. One of those are those sleeping bags, sometimes called sleeping bag, sleeping bean bag, whatever you want to call it. It's just a zip up. May or may not have a zipper. It's a bag where you can tuck in, sleep at night. Usually the temperatures here in the northern hemisphere drop during the nighttime, especially during the winter. So you may have to bundle up quite a bit if you do any kind of wintertime travels, especially in the northern states, the Montanas, the Washington, Oregon, the Idaho type of locations, Ohio, Illinois, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Michigan. I mean, there's a repertoire of state, New York, Maine, Syracuse, Connecticut, you name it. There's a repertoire of states, Missouri, that require very much gear, lots of gear to survive there, especially their winters, which could go into extreme lows, such as -10, -15, -20, you name it. It has been recorded. You may fall victim to such temperature drop during the winter and be a victim of frostbite and death due to exposure. It has happened. It will continue to happen. Don't be one of those statistics. Don't be one of those victims. Going back to water, going back to fluids, you have to drink a lot, especially walking out there. You will be doing a lot of walking, perhaps some jogging, perhaps some running. Who knows who you may have to run from or run behind or after. It will be a possibility, so you need to basically not only be ready, but be prepared, be hydrated enough so you can run for it if you have to. You may have to run from wildlife. You may have to run from a crook, from an assailant. You may have to run for your life for whatever reason. You may have to be there, be somewhere at a certain time, and you may have to just hurry up some. You may just walk, and just the act of walking will dehydrate you unless you replenish. We are animals. I wholeheartedly believe this. Animals that come from the water. Of course, through evolution in our far ancestry, we originated in the water, and in the water we depend. In the water we will depend always, and treat always. We're 78% water, and if that's not enough evidence that we came from the water, I'm not sure what else is. There are many other pieces of evidence that I won't go into, but it's my wholehearted belief that we once swam out and took our very first steps as a species from the water. But I digress on that. You must carry your water or a way to collect and clean and filter water. There are bottles that filter water. They have their own filter built in. You may have your own filtering system apart or separate from this water bottle. And they may be quite expensive. They may be heavy or heavier than you would like, but that may be something that you may want to carry with you for your health, for your well-being. You may have to purchase water as you go. If you choose to do that, you may have to stay within reach of places where water is available, near rivers, near lakes, near streams. You may have to go from water source to water source, whether it be, again, a river or a natural source or an artificial source, such as water spigots, stores that will sell you water or give you water, and many of them will give you water. And you may replenish your water bottle like this. So that's that. Water and drink. Other types of drinks I really don't recommend carrying around. That will just weigh you down. And other types of drink you can go and get as you experience and go about your journey, such as juices or teas or any kind of other mixed drink. However, water is about as much as I would recommend you carrying because of the weight, because of its value. Most of the drinks and juices are water, so might as well carry them the prime substance, the prime ingredient the whole way. That way it's got more value. Juice without water is just a fruit, so it doesn't have as much value as far as hydration or anything like that. Yes, fruits have a lot of water in them themselves, but not as much water as water itself. Let's be real. Moving on to another thing before I leave this topic about water. You may want to carry, other than a way to clean it, other than a filter, you may want to carry a cleaning tablet or disinfecting or purifying water tablet. They sell those. And these are to be used very seldom in case, pretty much of an emergency. You don't want to be putting those in your water every time you drink it or even every day. Because of their chemical composition, they may not be healthy to consume every day. These are for emergency situations or very seldom situations where water access is quite limited and quite difficult. You may, that's clean water access or access to clean water. You may be able to clean dirty water, pond water, collected water, sitting water with these purifying tablets, and be able to consume that water. However dirty you may look, you may be able to consume it to save your life, to save your health, to pretty much Hydrate yourself to the point where you can get to cleaner water. Your body hopefully will do the rest of the cleaning job as it requires. Your body is a very efficient cleaning organism, you know, through the many organs that you have cleaning: your stomach, your intestines, your liver, your lungs, whatever. So that's one thing you may want to have, either the pill or tablet. Sometimes they sell droplet bottles. Whatever it may be that you want to do. The last resort for cleaning is having a droplet bottle full of bleach, which is pretty much chlorine, and that will also disinfect to a very good degree, to a drinkable degree, your dirty water again, disinfect it, and it's not going to make it clear, crystal clear, clean, but it will at least kill bacteria and any harmful germs that or viruses that water may contain. It won't get rid of chemicals. So if you get water with polluted, in a polluted condition, or with chemicals, whether it be, you know, petroleum, whatever, that will not clean it. It will actually add another chemical to that mix, but it will at least kill bacteria. So you have to be very careful about your water source. You must look at how the water looks. If it's got a colorful sheen, that water most likely has petroleum-based chemicals, oil-based chemicals, fossil fuel-based chemicals, and you may want to avoid that water, whatever your condition may be, because you may make it worse. You may fall sick to the point where you cannot go find clean water. So there are other ways to determine whether your water is clean or not, or polluted. I recommend and highly encourage you to find out, read about it, whether it be on the internet, through books, whatever. So that's something that's very critical for you to find out, how to locate clean and determine whether water is clean or not. Moving on to food, one of the most critical, if not the second most critical item when going on the road. How will you eat? What will you eat? How will you access food? How will you gather, cook? All of that you need to think about, plan ahead, write it down. It may be a deal breaker. All of these things that I'm about to mention may be deal breakers. That's why it's so important to think about those things, and not only think about it, but write them down, or at least think about it methodically and one by one on a list type method, where you go through them one by one and just think out loud their options, or write them down. Most recommended is to write those down. Write down what you will do about them, about those challenges. So food, of course, you cannot pack the food that you will need, not even for a day, let alone your journey, more than a couple of days, a week. If you pack that much food, just think about what you get for groceries on a weekly basis. How can you possibly drag all that stuff along with you to spend a week out there? You can't. Not when you're going to walk miles upon miles, which it's basically a requirement when you go backpacking out on the road. If you think that you won't be doing some walking, might as well just put the whole ordeal to the side and forget about it, because you will be walking or moving quite a bit, whether it's either walking or you will be on your wheelchair, whatever movement and transportation device, personal transportation system you are employing. You will be using body energy quite a bit, whether it's through your legs, knees, feet, or arms, if you're in the situation where you're in a wheelchair. So think about that. That may be a deal breaker for you. So food, you either must buy it as you go, prepare it, buy food, basically raw, not raw, but yeah, it could be raw, or unprepared, uncooked food. I mean, you could buy uncooked food, unprepared, much cheaper, of course, than you would buying it prepared, ready to eat at a restaurant. That's why restaurants charge so much, because it takes quite a bit to have food prepared for you. There's quite a bit of cost involved with that. Same thing for you. You may be able to buy food and cook it as you go. You may have the technologies, the equipment required to cook food. You may have with you a cooking device, such as a portable stove, portable gas tank, or just something as simple as matches to light up a fire, maybe some fire starter, such as some sort of fuel, fire starting fuel, such as charcoal, gas. You may carry money with you. I don't recommend carrying cash. A lot of cash, certainly enough for you to go on long hauls, will be quite bulky, quite uncomfortable, hot to deal with, to have on you. Anything that blocks transpiration, airflow, will make you hot, will make you unnecessarily sweaty and dirty. So you may want to stay away from things that are plastic on your pockets, things that block airflow again. You may want to stay away from, including money, wads of cash, whatever. If you go on a long walk, even a wallet, the size of a small wallet, will drag you down to the point of uncomfort and, unnecessary weight and, again, sweatiness and effort. It's just unnecessary. If you carry a card, a single card, pay card with you, I believe it to be enough. A trusted payment source, such as a credit card, debit card, pay card of some sort, both combined. Take the most trusted payment method that you have. Again, I don't recommend cash or checks. They're uncomfortable, bulky, and not only that, but they're inconvenient. When it comes to checks, especially checks, they're inconvenient because again, they are not widely accepted anymore. Not only that, but they're also a lot of baggage and unnecessary bulk to carry a book of checks, especially if they have their little protective leather case or plastic case that again blocks out all sorts of transpiration, perspiration, and airflow. Not to mention the weight that these things will add to your person. So one payment card, I believe, should be enough. If you have decided not to have any kind of payment, this will bring a lot of inconveniences. It is, however, possible to be out on the road without any kind of payment. You will depend a lot more on the will and the grace and the charity of others. But it is, however, even a higher level of freedom to be without any type of payment, because you will not depend on a very large bank plopped somewhere supporting you and allowing you and even tracking all of your financial transactions, all of your purchases, all of your movements. Believe me, they are doing this right now. If you pay for any kind of thing, whether it's online, whether it's out in a store, whether it's at the supermarket, whatever it may be, your movements, your purchasing habits, what you buy, your behavior is being tracked, monitored, and analyzed every step of the way by these banking institutions. These corporations, these institutions make it their job to maximize not only their profits but their power. And what is a good way, perhaps a very, very good way to maximize their power? By tracking and analyzing your movements and looking for opportunities, not only for selling you stuff, but for selling your information. Yes, selling your information is vital for these companies. They sell the information for companies willing to pay big bucks for it. Very little questions asked, unfortunately. Very, very little questions are asked of these, the interest of these companies, why they would want your information. So if you choose to take payment with you and purchase food along the way, remember, you don't have to only purchase food. If you take a payment option, that's not going to be your only option. There will remain other options to you: free food that you can hunt, gather, fish, whatever. Those options will remain. However, the food option will also, the option to purchase your food, you can purchase from restaurants, you can purchase from supermarkets. I highly recommend you purchase mostly from supermarkets, since you have more of a choice of what foods to eat, to prepare. There is usually a very good variety, especially on larger cities, of food in supermarkets that are ready to eat, whether it be food that's cold, hot, prepared, unprepared, as far as cooked. They have a variety of cold sandwiches, warm sandwiches, salads, burritos, chicken, meats. Some of them have a small restaurant type deal inside, where you can order cheeses, you can order any type of hams, meats, salamis, and make your own sandwich. You can buy bread and condiments, mayo, mustard, ketchup, all of that stuff, relish, to make your own sandwich. Barbecue sauce, you can get all of that stuff and prepare your own food. You can buy food that is ready to eat, such as cereals, such as purees, canned foods, food that come in containers, prepared, ready to eat, soups. Many soups are, especially the ones that are in cans, camp bowls, and other types of soups. may be ready to eat straight from the can. They just may need to be reheated or slightly cooked and heated, or they may be able to be ready to eat right out of the can, no heating required. There are many items such as Spam, tuna, packets that are ready to eat. Again, many hams and cheeses, of course, are ready to eat right from the package. And that may be a choice you may want to go with. It's probably the cheapest if you choose to go with the pay route, the pay option for food, and the healthiest, since you have a more variety, more and least expensive variety of foods that are healthier for you. Again, salads and low fat, low sugar, low salt foods, low process, low chemical food are the best for you. So getting those from the supermarket are your cheapest options. Yes, you can get healthy foods from restaurants. However, you'll be paying up the wazoo for those. Those are usually very limited as far as access to them. Your type, our type, my type may not be welcomed in those restaurants where they serve organic, low fats, low salt, low calorie foods. And disturbingly and sadly enough, that is the case in many areas, many places, many restaurants, even those that are not high-end, fancy, and high-quality foods. People judge, as I mentioned in my earlier episode. People will judge you. People will look at you. People will smell you. People will see what you have, what you carry, how you dress, the items you have on you, the items you don't have on you, the items you're missing, your hairstyle, even your skin tone, as far as how much sun have you been exposed to and the such. That's all scrutinized by restaurant personnel. They may ask you to leave, so don't be surprised by such behavior. Most of these facilities, places are private. That's all I've known. I have not ran into any public restaurant. There may be some, publicly owned facilities for food distribution, but for the vast majority, restaurants are private locales, and they may ask you for no reason or any flimsy made-up reason. They may ask you to leave. The way they see it, as long as they're not violating any kind of rights as far as protected status, such as your race, religion. Anything outside of that is free reign for them, fair game. They may cite your cleanliness to be in a restaurant. So they may cite your dress. They may cite your baggage. So be prepared to be thrown out. Of course, figuratively speaking, nobody should be laying their hands on you. But be prepared to be asked to leave. And this may be a common occurrence when you're out on the road. So you may want to watch where you go as far as restaurants and the such. And you can probably soon find out which places are more welcoming than others as far as types of restaurants and the such. So it gets a lot more challenging and difficult if you decide not to go with any kind of payment option. You decide that food is your rights. So subsistence, as far as food, is your God-given or innate born rights, born with inherited rights just for being a human being. So you may choose not to pay for any kind of food. There are many things you can do to overcome this hurdle, very large and looming hurdle. You may hunt for your food. You may be prepared to hunt small game somehow. If you go bush life, you may have, weaponry to hunt. Small bows, arrows, spears. I'll be very, very careful where you go with any of these weaponry or hunting tools, because you may be deemed a threat, especially within cities, communities, living areas, residential, even commercial areas, even any kind of areas. In fact, any areas where other people are inhabiting. Pretty much those that live the sedentary life may consider anyone holding any kind of weapon outside of, the macho gun-toting types. You may be considered a threat if you are carrying, for example, a bow and arrow or a spear or any kind of other large knife or any kind of other device that may allow you to hunt for food, whether it's small, medium, or large game. So if you do choose to go that route, I highly discourage it. But again, this is your choice. This is something for you to consider, how much of a option this would be. I mean, it may be a very viable option for you depending on the area you plan to inhabit, travel, what type of people are around. It might be, an area where there's tribes, people of tribal descent, people that are used to nomads, people that are used to people being armed or being possessing hunting gear, hunting weapons. You may also choose to fish. That is an option. Fishing rod is a lot less menacing than a spear or bow and arrow in many cases, if not all. So you may choose to, be a avid fishing person, avid fisher that depends very much on fish and its meats. Fish could be readily eaten. A lot of people could prepare fish raw, eat it raw. However, I discourage this quite a bit because that could be very difficult to do out in the wild or out away from sites of sanitation, running water, away from chemicals and other natural condiments or fruits to disinfect, such as limes, lemons, oranges. Or anything like that, any other types of juices that may be able to neutralize any type of germs, bacteria. So eating raw fish, again, not recommended, but it may be something you may want to take a stab at, take your risks with, especially if that is something that you need to do to stay alive, to stay healthy. So I leave it up to you whether you want to consume it raw, or you can have the tools and equipment to light up a fire and cook some fish. Not too hard to do if you have the right equipment and knowledge. I may go into that a little bit, but carrying matches, perhaps some lighter fluid, perhaps some lighter tool, such as a cigarette lighter, or they have those grill lighters, that are more convenient. They have the longer spout that you can light up things without having your hands too close to the fire source. So, I would highly recommend that to have on your backpack. If you're going to have matches, if you're going to go old school with matches, make sure they are waterproof, or they are kept in a waterproof container at the very least, because you will be getting rained on, and you may have to go knee deep, waist deep, or even neck deep in water, depending what kind of area you have to traverse. You may have to go through a pond, lake, shallow river, deep river. I mean, it depends what you're ready for, what your skills are, what your mindset, how determined you are, and how bold you are. Those are all factors. You can also ask for food. I know this is going into the realm of hobos and homeless folks, but let's be real. That is exactly what you are at this point. No offense, 21 being homeless, but this is what you'll become. Whether it's permanent, temporary, whatever, at that moment where you're out there with all kinds of ties and tie downs and anchors broken off, umbilical cords severed, you're pretty much homeless. That's what they call them. That's what they labeled them. I would say that you are much more of a homed person than anyone else, because not only do you have one home under a brick and mortar building or house or apartment, you have the whole world as your home. The sky is your home. So that is just a label. I would not worry about it 1 second. The homeless label. But accept it. Live it. Be proud of it. That you're homeless by choice, even if it is not by choice, to survive, to thrive, and to live, quote unquote, homeless, instigates and should instigate a lot more pride than being, quote unquote, a homed person. Homed person is one that is limited, and severely so, severely limited, severely hindered, severely curtailed, caged, severely tied down, bound. If you're homeless, your potential is basically the sky. Truly, in every sense of the word, sky is the limit. So don't feel offended. I certainly wouldn't. If you're labeled homeless, if you're labeled this, if you're labeled that, labels have no meaning when you yourself know what you are, and you yourself value what you are, and value yourself, and value everything and everything around you, everything within you and everything around you. So take no offense, take pride at that label, homeless, because just think about what you really are, what it really means. You don't have one single home. You have many homes, limitless homes, everywhere, in the wild, in cities, in towns, in the open. Doesn't matter. Your home could be anything and anywhere. So feel proud, not down. So moving on to other things, I will move into shelter. Talking about homeless, a good way to transition to the next topic, shelter. Shelter, again, is the biggest challenge you will have, among the biggest, if not the biggest, challenges you will have, hurdles you will have to overcome when you're out here in the wide, open road, open world, because the sky is unforgiving. It will not care who and where you are, for the most part. It will just keep bringing you challenges non-stop every single day. So that is part of the excitement. That is part of the learning experience, the journey. That is part of the source of pride. How you will deal with, survive, and craft your way in and out of the elements. Again, a shelter doesn't really have to be brick and mortar. It could be a tree, it could be a bush, it could be a combination of the two. It could be in the woods, under the tree, under a hole. It could be very much a cave, although I'd be very careful what cave or what hole you stick yourself in. It may be the home of a bear, it may be the home of a wild cat, it may be the home of wolves. Any sort of wildlife will see that hole and see glory and attempt to inhabit it. So the larger the hole, the more careful I would be, because the larger the animal that could inhabit it. In this area, a few animals come to mind when it comes to caves or large holes, you know, on the side of a hill, the side of a mountain, the side of a raised indentation in the environment. There are black bears here in the southeast, which could be quite large. There are, in Florida at least, the Florida panther may still be in existence. There may be even some mountain lions here in the southeast, in the mountain areas that are yet undetected. Perhaps they have been detected outside of my knowledge. But other animals such as coyotes, wolves, are known to have been spotted or have been spotted here in the southeast. Any sort of wild cat, whether it be a bobcat or whatever other types of cat they have out there. I'm not sure if they have some sort of a wild dog other than the coyote. There may be some feral dogs. Oh, the wild hog, the feral hog, or the whatever else they have out there as a name for it. Those animals may be able or may be burrowing in those holes, in those caves, and they're known to be quite aggressive. So they may bring quite a bit of injury to you, or even death if you were confronted by such animal. Not to mention smaller animals, critters, snakes. Florida in the southeast have seen pretty large snakes, including pythons, boas. From there down to, other snakes which may or may not be poisonous. They like to burrow in holes as well, cavernous areas. So I'd be very careful. I would become very familiar with the wildlife in the area that you inhabit. Go to a Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, or any kind of other bookstore and read about the wildlife in your area. Local print, local publications, whatever. You may be able to browse a book or two on the subject at your nearby library without having to rent it out. I mean, you may be able to check a book out, who knows, in that area, if they're friendly and welcoming enough for you to have a library card without asking for too many identifications. You may have still an identification. You may choose to keep identification on you. Again, you don't have to do everything I say, everything I list here. You may do some, you may do it all, you may not do any. So you may have an ID, check out a book or two on wildlife or even on survival at any one certain area. Every area has its own set of challenges, especially when we're talking about larger areas. For example, you can't compare the southeast with the northwest or the northeast with the southwest of the United States. Those are very different areas, bring very different set of challenges as far as climate, weather conditions, flora and fauna, wildlife, temperatures, types of hazardous weather. And that is something else I want to bring up. Hazardous weather, I will touch up on that, which again is part of the sheltering challenges. The weather, storms, hurricanes, tornadoes especially, severe weather conditions such as hail, flash floods, rain, mudslides, all of that stuff you have to be careful, be aware of, keep up with the weather. When you're out there, you will become a lot more keen what the weather is, what the weather will be like. You will be able to predict what the weather may be like for that afternoon, even for that whole day, perhaps the next day, who knows, with a lot more accuracy than before. You may not be 100%, but you may be able to tell when cold weather may be coming. You may be able to tell when rain is coming. You may be able to tell when hot weather is coming. You may detect sudden or subtle changes in the weather and predict with some accuracy at least what the trend may be in the next few hours, the next day or so. Anything more than a day or two may be a little stretching your hopes as far as prediction, but about 24 to 48 hours is as much forecast as you need to make your move, to prepare, whether to stay put, evacuate, keep going, and what direction you go. You may become very good at this. I believe you have to. And, the more you learn about this type of knowledge about the weather, the better you will be off. I would learn about weather conditions, weather forming, the way the clouds look. There's a way to tell how the air up in the atmosphere is, looking at the clouds up in the horizon up above you. Of course, time of year. determines weather a lot. Area that you are currently in, whether you're in a flat area, hilly area. Weather is factored by a lot of conditions, a lot of factors. Weather is determined by a lot of factors. So the more factors you are aware of, I believe the more accurately you will predict and handle and cope with the weather. So taking shelter, make sure that you are knowledgeable as far as shelter goes. You may have to sleep out in the open, quote unquote open, not necessarily open sky, but you could you may have to sleep under a tree, under a shrub, under a vegetation growth. You may have to make a makeshift shelter using branches, leaves, sticks, fallen tree branches, fallen tree leaves, whatever, fallen trees, plants, whatever the case may be. You may have to take shelter in this fashion. As far as taking shelter in a city or town or community, you may have to pay for a stay in a hotel. This is a very convenient option if you have the funds and money to pay for such a stay, or if you have chosen to have a payment method with you. So just getting a room once every few days, once a week, whatever, may be a convenience for you, maybe something that you actually need quite much, to shower, to get a full night's sleep, perhaps to get a full night's comfortable rest, much needed, perhaps. So that's something you can do, especially in a urban city environment where sleeping anywhere but in a hotel may bring harm to you, put you at unwarranted and unduly risk, especially since there's going to be a lot of people around, especially even during the late hours of the night. Cities, especially larger ones, tend to have a lot of traffic still, people moving around, people even going to work, people going to entertainment spots, eating spots, restaurants, hotels, pretty much going to any other place within the city. They're going to perhaps run into you. You may not be able to completely hide your presence from the outside world in a city. It may be noisy, it may be, again, quite risky. You may not be the only one, perhaps very unlikely that you will be the only one attempting to rest in a secluded area within a city. Again, a city has many conveniences, peace and quiet, and the attention, the unwanted attention of others is not one of those conveniences. Cities have tons of folks, tons of people. Many are homeless. Many are, homeless not by choice, but by necessity, because they have been evicted. They have had many life misfortunes, and that's the situation that they found themselves in. Many other people out in the streets at late times of the night are sometimes with illegal or criminal intent, performing all kinds of illegal activity, whether it be drugs, trafficking, sex trafficking, any kind of other illegal activity, perhaps within that city. May have a lot of people looking at you and bringing unwanted attention to you and your location, and may try even to harm you in one way or another. So you need to be very careful, very mindful of this, and keep in mind that not everyone is there to be friendly to you. Not everyone is there to be accepting of you or any of that. So be mindful of that.